From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBIC, the Primetime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same. And it is time for the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles. And man, it is that time. And man, oh man, oh man. Pretty much, we have ourselves a very, very fun show. And I look forward to it. So let's go ahead and jump into this real quick. And well, it's not going to be that quick, but let's go ahead and jump into 49ers quarterback controversy. Who is the best option for a team that is expecting a big season? It's a lot of questions, man. It's just truly is a lot of questions going on when it comes to a good quarterback for the moment, for filling in at the time that he did, for helping save the season, for helping them move forward with the season. They lost Jimmy G, even though they had benched Jimmy G at the beginning of the season for Trey Lance. So the confusion of Mike Shanahan now is starting to be, well, not Mike, but, Shanahan, Kyle, he's not Mike because Mike would have had his quarterback already, but Kyle Shanahan is really, to me, starting to kind of look like he really is not cut out to be a head coach. I know that a lot of folks will probably say, no, he's doing a great job, but I just really feel like they've done a great job of building up a roster. They've done a great job of being able to have coaches with this staff that can coach guys up. They have good leaders on this team. They have football players on this team. And that's why they're able to do all those things that they're able to do, you know what I mean, and be a dominant force. And, when you have a defense like the defense of the 49ers, it's something that's just special. It's something that's very, very special. It's something that you say to yourself, man, this is a good group. And all they really do need is a game manager, somebody who can manage the game. That's it. That's all they need the guy to do. They don't need the guy to go in there and try to be the greatest quarterback since Joe Montana. They don't need any of that. They just need a guy to manage because they have Deebo Samuels. They have Christian McCaffrey, two of the best playmakers in the NFL today. So that's why they are very confident in who can play quarterback this year and move them forward. Also, they have one of the better offensive lines in the league as well, too, and led by Trent Edwards. So that's something that's absolute, plus for a team. And then, you have Warner and the crew on the defensive side. They are awesome. But you're going to have to find who the leader of your team truly is. And that's always going to be the quarterback position in today's NFL. And I just don't feel like any of the two young guys are leaders of this team. I feel like this will finally be Sam Darnold's moment to prove that he was worth being a top pick in the NFL draft. Everything that was advertised about Sam Darnold will come to fruition because he's always shown that he has what it takes to be a really good quarterback in the league. He just had the unfortunate situation of playing for teams that just were not good. It's just that simple. These teams weren't good football teams. It's not really hard to see. And, he goes to New York. They kind of put this unneeded pressure on him in New York. And then you don't build anything around him in New York. And what happens is New York winds up being a failure of a franchise. They put most of the blame on Sam Darnold, but we all know that they had a pretty bad coach at the time when Sam Darnold was there. They had a pretty bad game plan when Sam Darnold was there. So what happens is Sam Darnold gets sent to Carolina, and then they say, okay, we can rehash his career. We can get everything back. They send him to another bad coach who winds up getting fired mid-season last year. And then when the team thought that, pretty much they had no hope, who comes back and gives them at least some gives them the opportunity to save face? Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold has never really been the problem, in my opinion. I always felt like Sam Darnold has never been able to play on a great team. Now he's on a great team in the San Francisco 49ers. And I feel like the 49ers are very confused about how they want to go about this thing. How do they want to approach the quarterback position? Because with Purdy, it was really easy when you said, okay, just go out there and don't F it up. Now there's pressure. It's real pressure on him. Trey Lance seems to be a guy that has kind of lost his confidence a little bit, and that's not good. But I still got some faith in him as well, too. But I just truly do feel that you can't really be taking people's jobs away from them if you haven't really ever let them earn the job. You know what I mean? Because last year they had this high hopes that Trey Lance was going to be the face of the franchise, be their quarterback of the future. Then all of a sudden, Brock Purdy has a really good 6 games. And then in the biggest game of the year, he is an absolute no-show. Yeah, he got hurt, but he was going to have one of the worst games ever in conference championship history. You could just see it coming. He was a deer in the headlights. And I just truly feel like if you really want to win this season, you have to put Sam Darnold in as your starting quarterback. So then you can just go ahead and say, all right, you two, now watch him play and we'll figure this thing out. And then, you'll decide who's going to be the starter after Sam Darnold, possibly gets hurt, because he gets hurt every year anyway. So, I just feel like for you to move forward in the right direction, Sam Darnold has to be your starting quarterback. It sounds crazy today, but you guys, you'll get what I'm talking about if this comes to fruition. It probably won't be week 1, but it will be at some point during the season. We'll see Sam Darnold out there as the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Mark my words. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and jump into our next topic, and that's going to be Anthony Richardson named starter for the Colts. Does he present a good option for Offensive Rookie of the Year future bet? And you know what? I would say yeah, because Anthony Richardson is a guy who's going to be very exciting. As I said before, I talked about him a few weeks back, and now he's officially the starting quarterback for the Colts. I feel like what's going to happen here is that we're going to get ourselves another Cam Newton somewhat. I know he might not be as good as Cam, but the thing is, he has the Cam mannerisms to me. It just seems like he does everything so well, so easily. And then he's able to run around and be, a threat in that department as well, too. So there's a lot of things that make Anthony Richardson stand out as a pretty good prospect on being the Rookie of the Year. And I truly do feel that this guy is determined enough to get to that spot. He just seemed like a guy that was very focused on being the absolute best in the game. And it's going to take a while because Indianapolis isn't one of the better teams. But at the end of the day, though, Indianapolis has some bright spots on the offensive end. When you look at it, Michael Pittman Jr., who's a former Pro Bowler, a guy that they see as a top 10, top 15 receiver in the league. Also, you have Franklin as well, too, who's an excellent, excellent running back, and a few years ago led the league in running. So in rushing yards, and he touchdowns as well, too. But he's having a little bit of an issue when it comes to the contract, but he'll be able to figure that situation out eventually. I don't think he's going to miss the season. I just think that he needed to go ahead and let them know that he wants to get paid. So I truly do feel that the Colts have a team in position that if anybody's going to shock the system a little bit, it's them. And really, I feel like if their coach can go ahead and not be as robotic as he was in Philadelphia, then he could possibly get this team to compete in once again a wide open AFC South. The only team that's probably banking on not being a factor in that division this year is the Houston Texans, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be a spoiler. The Colts don't see themselves in a rebuilding phase right now because the Colts actually were the favorite to win the division last year because people felt that they had the best roster. Did they lose a lot of players from that roster? No, they did not. All they did was add in a brand new head coach. That's it. And bring in a brand new quarterback who's a young rookie. And let's go ahead and just keep it real. The last two times that the Colts have drafted a quarterback within the top 5 of the draft, it's worked out pretty well. One guy was named Peyton Manning. The other guy was named Andrew Luck. So when you look at this situation, the Colts have been able to be great at picking the right guy to play quarterback for them when it comes to the draft. Even Jeff George wasn't that bad of a quarterback when you picked him up, even though it just didn't work out in Indianapolis. So there's a lot of things to get excited about. You got game 1 against Jacksonville this year as well, too. You know Indianapolis is thinking about getting some sweet revenge because all those years of Jacksonville upending them and everything like that. And you know what? They got the guy that can go ahead and throw the monkey wrench in there as well, too. So it's going to be a really, really fun season when it comes to the Colts. And Anthony Richardson has to be a guy that you do consider with that future bet. I think right now he's sitting about 15-1 to win the Rookie of the Year. I think that's some great value right now. Pick it up as you can because Bijan Robinson is probably going to be the most popular play. He already is the most popular play. But I think Anthony Richardson will hold a little bit of merit because he's a quarterback. And that's something that you can invest in. And when you look at him compared to the other 2 quarterbacks drafted ahead of him, when you really look at measurables and intangibles, Richardson got them all. He's tall, he's long, he's strong, he's fast. He can throw the ball on the run. He can throw the ball as accurate as possible. There's just so many bright spots about the guy, and it's such a high ceiling as well, too. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward. And let's talk about some college football. And that's, can Florida, Anthony Richardson's alumni, can Florida get back to being a national power this year? Now, when you look at the Florida Gators at one point, and they're going to have a documentary coming out in a few weeks as well, too. The Florida Gators at one point were the most dominant team in all of college football. They're the last team to win back-to-back national championships. They also had a team that pretty much put out, I think, like 60% of the roster to the NFL. I know that sounds nuts when I say that, but just look them up, and you'll see so many players from those Florida State teams, national title teams, and in that Urban Meyer era that were just made it to the NFL, but specifically with those 2 national title teams. They had a lot of guys in the NFL from both of those championship squads. And they had significant players step into the NFL, such as Tim Tebow, Aaron Hernandez, the late Aaron Hernandez. Also, who else? They had, because they had 2 really great tight ends over at the University of Florida. And they both wound up doing pretty good when they got to the NFL. Riley Cooper, Brandon Spikes, all Reggie Nelson. The list goes on and on of how many players that they have that were really good, but controversial at the same time too. Now, Florida has traditionally been one of the better schools in the SEC my whole lifetime because I'm about to be 40 next year. So I'm just considering in my lifetime how good Florida's been. And I've never seen Florida have a season where they went 3-10 or something like that, or 3-9 or anything of that nature. At the worst, I've seen Florida go 7-5 in a season. You know what I mean? 6-6. And they never put out a bad product. You know what I mean? They'll put out a product that's average, but they'll never put out a bad product. I've seen Miami put out some really bad teams, and I've seen Florida State put out some really bad teams, but never Florida. Florida has always had teams that they figure out who they have at some point, even when they struggle. And usually guys step up to the plate and become big-time players. And that's something that is immeasurable, and it's something that is pushing this team to try to be the surprise darlings of the SEC once again. They have the opportunity to be a team that can play spoiler to the Alabamas of the world, to the Georgias of the world, to the LSUs of the world, to the Tennessees of the world. Florida has always been the game where they say, okay, we're going to have to put our head on a swivel. And Florida has that mentality going into this season as well, too. They have a very good defense that's set up for this year. Now, I know when we talk about defense, you look at the bowl game last year, you say that defense, well, a lot of those guys didn't play in that game because a lot of those guys were worried about getting to the NFL. But this time around, you have a lot of guys that can take that as motivation going into this year, knowing that they can't let that be the history of their careers. They can't let that be the shining moment of their career, the worst moments of their career. So Florida is a team that I feel is going to be on the rise this year. They're going to cash us a lot of tickets in the SEC play as well too. So be on the lookout for them this year. I think that they're up to having a great season this year, and there's a lot of things that are in a positive direction for the old Florida Gators. And I truly do believe that when they hook up with Georgia this year, that will be a Florida win, and I'm calling it now. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and move forward, and let's talk about the NBA real quick. And, in the NBA, it's always drama. The NBA is just a soap opera now. You know what I mean? Half the time they play basketball, other half the time they're dramatic, and there's always something going on, and there's always something that's just, I can't believe guys are so loud about certain things now in the NBA. But Harden ready to move on from Philly, but they aren't. Now the situation has came out. The other day, the 76ers said that they would not get rid of James Harden. That James Harden was going to be with them until they found the right deal. At this point right now, they don't have the right deal in attack. So James Harden is going to be a part of their roster. He's going to be on their team. It does not matter what he wants to do. It doesn't matter what he says in the media. They're not getting rid of him until the actual season starts and they actually get some games in and things like that. So what Harden does is Harden comes back and he has a very, Harden comes back with a very, strong message in China, of all places, where Daryl Morey had a little bit of an issue at, and says to the people of China that he is not returning to the 76ers as long as Daryl Morey is a part of the 76ers organization. And that doesn't really make any sense because he's still under contract, and literally he opted back into the contract. He could have opted out and went and just played for another team, but he decided to opt into the contract, which the 76ers did not want him to do. The 76ers wanted him to move down the road. So now he's opted in, and he's saying that he's somewhat committed to what they have going on in Philadelphia, or he's trying to build something here with Embiid and feels that, hey, possibly we're close to winning a title. But that's truly not the case. What happened was Harden just made sure that he secured his what he did was he tried to make sure he secured the $36 million he's going to make this year, instead of going and signing with the team for like a bare minimum or something of that nature. Because, if he would have went to the Lakers, they would have said, hey, you know what, we can get you $13 million for 1 year. That's where the Lakers is looking at right now. And Harden is over there trying to get the big bag, but still be, have his way. And this is just, I just really feel like a lot of these NBA guys don't really care for their opportunities anymore. You hear all these heartwarming stories from their parents and people around them about how they struggled as kids and how everything was about getting to the NBA and how this, that, and the third is, pushes them in their passion. And then they make some money. And then they make some money for a good decade or so. And then all of a sudden, all those morals and all those things that you really tried hard to get have all kind of taken a back seat. Now it's all about what I want to do. I don't care for the team. I want to be here. I want to be there. Yeah, I want to win a championship, but really, I just want my money. At the end of the day, everybody's not going to get a ring. And a lot of players have understand that part. And a lot of the players that have made a lot of money, they could care less about winning a ring. I'm going to keep it real with you. Their trophy was getting those monster contracts. And pretty much they're trying to hold on to those monster contracts. And that's all I see with James Harden right now is James Harden knows he's not a $36 million player a year anymore, but he's still a Hall of Famer. He's still a guy that can lead your team to greener pastures if they're a team that has not been to greener pastures. But at the end of the day, he's just a guy that's really good at shooting and scoring. That's it. And pretty much, I got a lot of love for Harden. And you guys know I've gone to bat for Harden plenty of times, man. But at this point right now, the way that he's been complaining the last 2 or 3 years, it's just like, just go ahead and retire already, dude, because you don't really love the game anymore. What you do love is the fact that you're famous because of the game of basketball, but you don't like playing the game of basketball anymore. Or you just don't like cooperating with the teams that you're playing for. There was a big gripe going to Brooklyn from Houston. And they gave him his way. They gave him back to Durant. He could go play with his boy Durant and Kyrie. They gave him a dream situation of playing in Brooklyn. He said he wanted to play in Brooklyn. They made sure he played in Brooklyn. Then he had a situation where he said, hey, you know what? I want to go to Philadelphia. He went to Philadelphia. And, guys don't just get to be traded to these teams when you're an upper echelon player and they're teams that are in position to win titles. You just don't get to do that, and then they don't give away any picks. So at the end of the day, this has been all for nothing with James Harden. Let's just keep it real, okay? There's no championships that have came into play, not even a finals appearance. So at the end of the day, I would say this: Philadelphia, just get rid of him, okay? Even if you can't trade him, just release him, just waive him, do whatever you can possibly do to just in this situation with James Harden, and then James Harden can go ahead and choose the team that he truly wants to play for. Okay? All right? Probably be the Phoenix Suns. You know what I mean? I would say keep him away from LA. But most likely he'll be looking at the Lakers or the Clippers as options as well too. And as I said before, this can be fixed pretty easily. If the Clippers are willing to get rid of Paul George, I would say do a straight up trade for him for Harden. And Paul P would be great with the 76ers. I know they would enjoy it. And I know you can throw in some other players for this so you can even it all the way out. But for now, I really do feel like a guy like James Harden has no business being around a team if he's not going to be fully committed to that team. So most likely you'll see these guys you'll see this guy probably holding out, probably benched for the first half of the season. Let's just keep it real, because they're going to try to keep him as healthy as possible so they can move him so they can get the best possible deal as well too. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break, and when I get back, we're going to go ahead and jump into some baseball. We got a lot going on today. We got games that are actually getting played right now. We have 4 to start off the day today, and we actually have 2 that are about to go off in the next 10 minutes, but we had a few start a few hours ago. So I have some updates on those scores for you. And when I get back, we're also going to talk about the games that I have for Wednesday night tonight as well, too. The big games that I feel like that are those games. So with that, you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capitals.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we are back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. Now, last night, Dodgers, Blue Crew Daily, Dodgers won 6-2 to run their to win their ninth in a row, not run their ninth in a row, but win their ninth in a row. And what to expect tonight at Chavez Ravine? Well, what to expect tonight at Chavez Ravine is you can expect the Dodgers to be on their A game once again, because the Dodgers are in beast mode. They are in win mode. They are in kill mode. They are a team that is very focused on the task at hand. And the Dodgers really are looking to win a ring this year. It's not about, trying to get to the playoffs, things like that. The Dodgers knew, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not be a front runner. Let's take our time. We're not going to spaz out every time we go on a quick 3-game losing streak or we lose a series or two in a row. We're not gonna panic. And this is why the Dodgers are in the position that they're in right now, because they haven't panicked at all this season. They've went about their business. Yes, even when there was issues about the starting pitching, the Dodgers never let it affect them. When there was issues about the middle of the lineup hitting, the Dodgers never let it affect them. When there was issues about certain guys not being able to step up and contribute and play a certain way that was expected of them, the Dodgers didn't stop a thing. The Dodgers just kept going with the flow and just kept winning games. They made a bold decision because, they were looking to be young this year and have their youth movement coming in. And, it kind of was working. But then at the same time, too, it was working more with the vets. So that's why you got to send a guy like Miggy Vargas back to the minors so then he can figure some things out. Also, James Outman, a guy that got off to a really fast start, struggled a lot for a 2-3 month stretch, but he stepped it up and has really, really been on as of late. And he shows that the Dodgers' future with their youth is so bright. Bobby Miller last night had a hell of a game. He retired 18 batters in a row last night and wound up only giving up 1 run. The Dodgers won that game 6-2 last night. And he's been absolutely phenomenal since he's came up. So the Dodgers have a lot to hang their hat on. The Dodgers have a lot that they can look forward to as well. And they're putting themselves in position to be right where they want to be. And that's in the World Series. But they still have a lot of competition and a lot of games before that. And we know that at the end of the day, the team that's seen as the head honcho is the Braves. Even though the Braves aren't the defending National League champions, they're still the best team in the National League at this point. And the Dodgers know them very well from a few years back, losing to the Braves as well, too. So there's just a lot of things that are coming together for both sides, pitching and hitting. Now, the Brewers, they've been able to get a little bit of a cushion as of late because you have the Reds struggling, and the Cubs have are coming on, but the Cubs have been a little bit back and forth as well too. But the Brewers have been the consistent force in the NL Central. Let's keep it real. They haven't needed to have a we win 15 out of 17 streak or we've won 17 out of 20 streak to be back in the lead. They've been consistently at the top of the division all year long. And literally, it's crazy. The only team that has not been there at the top of the division all year is the St. Louis Cardinals. And the St. Louis Cardinals won the division the last few seasons. That's absolutely nuts. But it's crazy. The Brewers had to compete with the Pirates to start the season off, a team that jumped out to a 20-7 start for the season. Then the Reds got hot, and they had to deal with that situation. Now you got the Cubs hot. And the Cardinals, they're just not going to catch anybody. But the Brewers do present a very, very good element coming into tonight's game. They are hungry to get themselves a win. They were playing so well until about the 4th, 5th inning last night, and then the Dodgers just cut it on, and it happens. So tonight, I feel like what's going to happen here is going to be a more of a toss-up game. You got Kershaw back on the mound tonight. That should be good for the Dodgers. And you said to yourself that it should be a good move for the Dodgers, but just know that Wade Miley is going to be on the other end of that spectrum tonight as well, too. So expect a really good pitching matchup going both ways for both sides. And I truly do feel that the Dodgers will wind up getting this one done tonight, but don't take if you're betting it, just try to make sure that you don't overbet the Dodgers. I wouldn't say they're your one play beats all play. You know what I mean? I wouldn't put them up in that category because they are playing against the first place team and they kind of are a heavy favorite for a game like this. And I think that being this big of a favorite is a bit too much. So that's why I say tread lightly with this game right here. Even though you're getting Kershaw back, who's been pitching Cy Young type baseball all year long, still you have to go ahead and understand you're getting this guy back from injury. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out, and then we will move from there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move forward to our next topic, and that's us getting into MLB Wednesday night. We got a lot going on here with the MLB Wednesday night tonight. We have some pretty good games going on between some very, very fun teams and very important games going on tonight as well, too. So there's a lot. And when you look at what's going on right now, let's get an update of the scores. You had the Twins and the Tigers going at it. And as I keep saying that the Tigers really do have the Twins number this year. It's just too bad that they can't put anything consistently together because they will be right here in the mix of things for this division, but it's just not working out for them. But their Tigers are up 7-4 right now at the end of the 7th. They're doing pretty good. And Torkelson and Carpenter actually both hit home runs here in the 7th inning. Torkelson has 2 home runs, and Riley Green hit a home run as well, too. So on the day, the Tigers have 4 home runs. Then you have the Pirates and the Mets going into the top of the 8th inning. The Mets are up 8-3, and it looks like we're going to lose our series this week with the Pirates. We have the Pirates as the series winner in that series this week. So the Mets are up 8-3 in that spot. And then we have our game going on in Colorado where we have the Rockies and Diamondbacks in the top of the 3rd, and the Diamondbacks are up 2-1 right now. So that's where we're looking right now for games. And then in about the next minute, we're going to have the Rays and Giants start their game over in San Francisco. So let's go ahead and jump into our first game of the night that I'm reviewing, and it's going to be the Nationals and the Red Sox. And the Red Sox come into this game 63-56, while the Nationals, who have played much better baseball over the last few weeks, have find themselves at 53-37, and probably the best last place team not named the Yankees in baseball right now. because they got 53 wins in last place. The Cardinals have their 54 wins in last place, but still, the Nats have played great baseball this month. Just this month in general, they played great baseball. They wound up going 8-5 this month, and they put together two 4-game winning streak and a 3-game winning streak. So this team is done very well for themselves, and they're taking advantage of the bad teams. They're showing that the future's very bright in DC. And they got some of the best pitchers in DC and some of the best hitting in DC. It's just not consistent. So tonight, I truly do feel that this game right here is one that, a lot of people will probably have in the back of their head that, it should be a cruise for the Nationals somewhat. Or, not the Nationals, but it should be a cruise for the Red Sox because Paxton's on the mound. Blase. But Gore is one of the better pitchers for the Nationals. So that makes this game more of a 50-50 than anything. So where I'm going with this one is I'm taking the Nats today as the dog of the day with the plus 135. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. Let's go ahead and jump into the Guardians and the Reds. This is going to be a very, very good game. The Guardians and Reds, this is the Battle of Ohio. And you have the Guardians coming into this game 58-62, while you have the Reds coming in 62-59. This is good for the Guardians today because now they can see if they can put a dent into Minnesota's lead. Minnesota's actually up 4.5 games now. And as you see, the Reds, as I said, the Reds have kind of fell apart. They're now a half a game. Now they're behind Chicago due to tiebreaker. But both teams, from what I can see here, both teams are actually out of the playoff situation, but they're chasing Miami, who they're not too far behind of. But still, you have a Reds team that's 3.5 games back, and they're trying to put themselves back in position, but they've lost their last 7 out of 10, and it's just been a really rough month for the Reds. You know what I mean? The Reds at one point had lost 6 games in a row, then came back around and would lose another, and then come back around and lose their next 4 out of 7. So they've just been bad this month. They've won 3 games this month, okay? They're 3-10 this month, to be exact. And it's just not good. And last month, they had another 6-game losing streak and actually had wound up losing 5 out of 6 to Milwaukee, which was detrimental to everything. But really, they wound up losing 7 out of 9 to Milwaukee last month. And that pretty much put Milwaukee right where they needed to be ahead of them. And it's just been tough. They haven't been able to win a series as of late. They ran into some issues here playing against Pittsburgh, even though they did beat Pittsburgh. Missing that one game Saturday, that was kind of huge. But, they got to figure it out, though, because the Guardians really are in a must-win situation. They're in a must-win situation. And when you look at the rest of the month, you see that the Reds, this would be a good time to win, because they have Toronto coming up Friday through Sunday. Then they got to fly out to SoCal and play in Orange County against the Angels. They got 3 with them. Then they got to play 4 against the Diamondbacks, and then they got another 3 against the Giants. So they got a 10-game West Coast road trip coming up. So that right there is their season. Let's keep it real. They're going to have to win 70% of those games, in my opinion, to stay afloat. Okay? So you have that. But then you look at Cleveland, their situation. Cleveland's situation, little different. Cleveland is looking at this. They've won their last 2 in a row, and they're looking at this Cincinnati game tonight, and then they start a 7-game homestand with Detroit and the Dodgers. And then they finish up with 6 on the road with Toronto and Minnesota. This, to me, their homestand is going to be crucial. But those last 6 games of the month on the road are going to be very, very telling on how the rest of their season is going to go as we pull into pretty much the final month of the year in September. So with that, tonight, with this game, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this one in a certain position. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this be a over 9.5 because you got Syndergaard on the mound tonight. And, he's been a guy that's just been absolutely roughed up all season. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it checks out. We'll move forward from there. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the Windy City rivalry, and that's going to be the Cubs and the White Sox. And the White Sox come into the north side to try to take over Wrigley once again. Now, it looks like this is a 2-game series with these teams. So you have the White Sox, who are pretty much out of contention. They're second to last place in the Central Division. They've given up a lot of their stock, pitching wise and everything like that. Getting rid of Lucas Giolito and all that good stuff. It just they know what they did. They pretty much went ahead and threw up the white flag for the rest of the year. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to play their absolute arch rivals as hard as possible. And that showed last night when they beat them 5-3. Now, they've had kind of a tough month this month. They lost 4 in a row to start the month. Now, and they just ended a 3-game losing streak, that where they were swept by the Milwaukee Brewers after beating the Yankees. So, the White Sox, in a sense, are trying to just survive for the rest of the year. And they fly to Colorado after tonight, and they're going to play Colorado this weekend. Then they come back to the South Side to play Seattle and Oakland. Then they finish up the month in Baltimore. So they're looking to keep themselves keep themselves confident, at the end of the day. They know the playoffs are not happening, but you can build for next year as well, too. And guys are playing for their next deal as well. And guys are playing for their futures as well, too. I truly do think that they will be moving on from Tim Anderson this winter, because that's really needed, because it seems like those guys don't compete as hard as he does. It's just that simple. He wants to win baseball games. They want to just be baseball players. It's a difference in that. And a lot of people have to understand that part as well, too. All right, so you got the Cubs. And the Cubbies, as I keep saying, the Cubbies are on the way. The Cubbies are coming. But the Cubbies are still a game out of a playoff spot at this point. And they know that now. That's what they're playing for. But they are also playing for their division as well, too. Now, the Cubbies, they did win a very important series this weekend against Toronto, but dropping that New York series last week was pretty crucial after being able to beat Atlanta in that series prior to that and sweep the Reds that week as well too. But they're still having a pretty good month. Let's keep it real. You know what I mean? This team has actually wound up winning 8 out of their 13 games this month. So they're sitting kind of pretty. And you know what? They have a pretty good schedule after tonight. They have Kansas City at Wrigley. Then they have Detroit next week on the road. And then they have a 4-gamer in Pittsburgh next week. And then they end the month in a very important series with the Milwaukee Brewers. So, tonight, the way that I see this game setting up, I truly do see this game being one of those really tough Chicago Windy City nights, but I feel like the Cubs wind up prevailing in this spot after losing a close one last night to the White Sox. So I'm going to go ahead and take that bet right there. And I'm going to take the 1.5 on the Cubs tonight with the minus 1.5 with the plus 115. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take us one final break, and when I get back, we're going to be talking tickets. So stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another and Nyquist, Also trained two-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, here we are. Let's go ahead and jump into Talking Tickets. And what do we have here? We have ourselves a pretty good group here with Talking Tickets as well. And it's going to be this. It's going to be 65-1 with this group tonight. Don't worry about the 63. It's a 65-1 ticket tonight. And we're going to take the over 9.5 with the Guardians and the Reds. Like I said, I feel like there's going to be scoring in that game tonight. Then we have the Astros and the Marlins game tonight. I feel like Justin Verlander will be on the money tonight. And I like the Astros tonight. And also, if you want to go ahead and be real bold, play the alternate run line -1.5. I think you're getting plus 200 on that bad boy. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. Then we have the under 9.5 with the A's and the Cards tonight. That should be a good pitcher's duel between Liberatore and Blackburn. Should be good. Blackburn is going for the A's. Liberatore is going for the Cardinals. So it should be a good one. Then we got the Nats plus 135 tonight as our dog of the day. This should be pretty good. We are trusting Gore tonight to go ahead and get us to the promised land. And let's go ahead and see if we can get that win. Then the Yankees struggling. Yankees struggling hard too, man. It's kind of sad to look at right now. But I think that the Yankees will be into this one tonight against the Braves. The Braves are just passing time at this point. They know they're going to make the playoffs. They're just waiting for the day for when they clinch the magic number, and then they can start letting the puppies play a little bit. So, yeah. I like the plus 1.5 tonight. The Yankees are in a must-win situation, but I think they keep the game close. And then, as I already said, the Cubbies -1.5 tonight. I think they win this game by 2 runs or better. And I like them with the -1.5 plus 115. And this is going to give us a 65-1 ticket. So with that, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. You guys are the absolute best. And as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving. And this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. And as I always, the Primetime Capper. And with that, I am gone till tomorrow.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but